to the list of questions. Okay, the first one is actually about controversial innovation, such as cloning. The participant is asking, how are the benchmarks of innovation and creativity in terms of managing science? Okay, whether it is science or otherwise, well, I believe I have mentioned three, I think, what some scholars consider as conditions maybe for practicing innovation or creativity. Well, we have mentioned the usefulness, that the idea should be useful and not causing any harm at the other end. Which means, like, it's not useful for some people, but causing harm to others. It should be useful, causing no harm. This is very important. La darara wa la dirar. And then we mentioned also it should be positive. Maybe it is innovative, but it's negative. And I addressed the issue of originality. In the West, usually when they started talking about innovation and creativity, they always consider originality, genuinity, and other things as one of the main criterion. However, lately I've seen the Encyclopedia of Creativity written by a group of scholars from the West, and it's about 2,000 pages. And then I have seen also other writings as well. There is another book on the now they talk about value-based creativity, even the Westerns, and some of them talk about the dark side of creativity. So which means creativity can lead to problems, can lead to disasters, can lead to in Islam it should be positive. The creative idea or innovation should be positive, useful, causing no harm, and it should be practiced with sincerity, so that it becomes a rewardable act. However, today I told you last time there are about 7 conditions, but I might add today one important condition, and that is maqasid al-sharia. Any innovation or creative act or a solution to a problem or to a challenge, it should be also observing maqasid al-sharia, the objectives of the Islamic sharia, the sharia rules, the teachings of Islam. And like the question was raised by, I believe, a sister or the participant. They are mentioning about cloning. So we know that preserving حفظ النسل, progeny, preserving progeny is one of the important maqasid in Sharia. Okay, so observing these maqasid. And by the way, another issue which is very important when it comes to maqasid, that is weighing between benefits and harms. This is very important within maqasid al-sharia, weighing between benefits and harms. Any act, maybe a solution, maybe to a problem, a new design, a new whatever, new innovation, invention, it might have both some negative and positive outcome, or we might, scholars call it benefits and harms. So we have 5. I cannot mention in details, but I can share with you that there are 5 principles to deal with, or to balance between, or to weigh between benefits and harms. So these principles have to be observed also. Okay, so like, we are talking about we might tolerate minor harm for gaining a major benefit, but however, we need to give away, or forget about a minor a minor benefit if it leads to a major harm. So it's the opposite. These are two principles out of the 5. I've discussed this in my book for more details. Another one is asking about ijtihad, and the other one is asking about the boundaries between and talabatul ilm, or talibul ilm, knowledge seekers. And again, scholars made it clear that also there are rules to be observed in ijtihad. I've discussed in details in my book. I believe there's one chapter on ijtihad, maybe 4th chapter if I'm not mistaken, or 5th, is on ijtihad. So I discussed in details about the rules to be observed. However, one thing I would like to mention before maybe we start our session today, and that is very important. It's not because we fear that maybe talabatul ilm, or students, would abuse the maybe whatever they learn. If they learn, let's say, we are teaching them thinking, creative thinking, etc., that they would maybe go beyond their limit, let's say. This shouldn't prevent us. That is an important issue. It shouldn't prevent us from teaching thinking skills, creative thinking skills, and all related issues. This should be taught to our students. And I tell you, also, not only as a subject, but also it should be infused in the system. It should be infused in curricula, in textbook, and in classroom as well. That's why we need also lecturers, teachers in schools to infuse thinking and creativity into curricula, into classroom, into their textbooks, by the way. That's what our great scholars used to do. They used to teach their students and allow them to practice what they have learned in their presence, so that that they encourage them, actually. Okay, and if there is a need for guides, or for this or that, they will, for sure, they will share their views or opinion. So I think that is what we should. That's what we should do. We should build the attitude, thinking and creativity also, and critical thinking. These are attitudes. So we should build attitudes where we talk about mental attitudes. We should build these mental attitudes. We should motivate students to be creative and critical as well. But for sure, when it is done properly by the educators, the murabbi, inshallah, hopefully there will be minimum abuse of this system or ijtihad or okay. What we have actually in the Muslim world is more of trends, you know, group trends, or what we call it, some group trends. But inshallah, we shouldn't worry too much, because they cannot survive. They cannot survive in Muslim societies. They are not respected. They will not be respected. People know that they are they are exceeding the limits. Okay, that is also one more last issue. I mentioned last time the need for institutionalizing collective thinking. Okay, and I believe that our institutions should also play their role here. So like Al-Majma' al-Fiqhi, we have a great bodies for fuqaha, Muslim scholars all over the world. They meet, I think, once or twice a year. So I think they need to also to play their role when it comes to challenges that needs collective ijtihad. Now, you know, al-ijtihad al-maqasidi, collective ijtihad, alhamdulillah, it's ongoing. So we need also the input of those great institutions, especially in this case, Majma' al-Fiqh al-Islami, Islamic jurisprudence institution, international body or institution. I think they also should provide their views on these controversial issues. So this is what I have for the last session questions. If you allow me, Brother Sharan, I want to share the screen. Okay. So you can see the screen, right? The PowerPoint. Okay, yeah?
Okay, very nice.
Alhamdulillah. So, okay, now we just proceed. One of the great Quranic phenomenons is actually what we are going to discuss today. And this is, alhamdulillah, also there is I have a continuous research. I started the research a long time ago, 2003, but alhamdulillah, then in 2018, my second book, I've specified one section, one chapter for this topic, thinking terminologies in the Quran. Okay, it's a great phenomenon. Now, let's explore how it started. It started with actually Al-Imam al-Razi in his tafsir when he interpreted this verse. I think it's verse 30, not 31, by the way. I'm very sorry. Okay, I'm not so sure. Is it 30 or 31? وعلم آدم الأسماء كلها ثم عرضهم على الملائكة فقال أنبئوني بأسماء هؤلاء إن كنتم صادقين. وعلم آدم الأسماء كلها. The first part of the ayah, that Allah taught Adam al-asma, names of things. Whether it is here, what Adam has been taught, is it just the names of things, or actually it's more than that? This is discussed by the Mufassirin. I'm not going to go into that too much. But Al-Imam al-Razi identified 31 terms, 19 of which are mentioned in the Quran. 19 of the 31 terms are mentioned in the Quran. He identified as synonyms of knowledge. Those 30 terms, or 31 terms, he considered as synonyms of knowledge. Okay. Now we go through those terms. Okay, we know also that Al-Imam al-Razi in his tafsir, he's practicing what we can call critical thinking, creative thinking, and in his tafsir. For sure, there are some controversial issues. There are some of his views, but generally speaking, mashallah, his tafsir is considered one of the great tafsir when it comes to the, you see, when we have tafsir, we have the linguistic approach, we have the fiqhi approach. Okay, so fiqhi approach like al-Qurtubi, and we have the logical approach or critical thinking approach, which we have Tafsir al-Imam al-Razi and Tafsir ibn Ashur. Okay, so the first term identified by Imam al-Razi is al-idrak, and which means perception. Okay, so this is mentioned in the Quran. Second term is ash-shu'ur, feeling. Again, it's mentioned in the Quran. The third one is at-tasawwur, conceptualizing. At-tasawwur. This is also, but this one not mentioned in the Quran, by the way. But there are other related terms which we will see and examine later on. Al-hifd, memorizing. This is mentioned in the Quran. Okay, memorizing is related to thinking. And well, Al-Imam al-Razi, he says that also related to al-ilm, knowledge, to knowledge. So it's mentioned in the Quran. Number 5, at-tadakkur, recollecting. This is mentioned in the Quran. Afala yatadakkarun. This is mentioned many times in the Quran. I'm doing the latest research, which is going to be an update of my book chapter on this part. I'm working now, alhamdulillah, ongoing. Hopefully within 1 month I will finish. I'm bringing in all those terms, okay, with the ayat, okay, with the verses. But actually, I don't want to prolong the session. Our session is for 1 hour. So I'm trying not to prolong the session, inshallah. The next one is ad-dhikr, remembering Allah, and ad-dhikr in general is mentioned in the Quran. The number 7, al-ma'rifah. Okay, so again, it's mentioned in the Quran. Knowing, now, is mentioned in the Quran. Al-fahm, or understanding, it's mentioned in the Quran. By the way, there is one issue that we will discuss later. These terms are interconnected, or maybe we can say they might be also a different aspects of thinking. To me, that is maybe more even relevant. Like, I want to share with you, there is another term mentioned by Al-Imam, also like al-fiqh. Al-fiqh, reasoning. Actually, if you look at Mufassirun, they call it diqqatul fahmi. It's a higher degree of understanding. So here I would like just to make some connections between today's session, that these terms, they are interlinked, number one, and there could be also, to me, the possibility is high there that there are different levels of thinking. That's why al-fiqhu diqqatul fahmi is deep understanding. And my brothers and sisters, I've explored a few articles. Now, some Western scholars, they talk about 6 levels of understanding. You may look for these 6 levels of understanding, by the way. Okay, so they talk about 6 levels of understanding. Further research, we might see that, as I said, these terms are different levels of thinking. Instead of that they are synonyms, rather than they are different levels or different aspects of thinking. Okay, let's go on. The next one is al-fiqh, and alhamdulillah, grasping. This is the one I told you, al-fiqh, grasping. So grasping is a higher state of al-fahm, understanding. Okay, the next one, al-aql. So sorry, last time I told you, al-aql is the one which is interpreted as reasoning. And this is used in the Quran, this is used a lot. Again, this term, al-aql, ya'qilun, ta'qilun, etc. Now I'm even counting in my updated research, I'm counting those terms. For your information, those terms, some of them have been mentioned dozens of times, you know, and numerous times. Okay. Ad-diraya, being familiar with. Okay, so that is another term. But ad-diraya, it's known in the Islamic thought, but not mentioned in the Quran. Al-hikmah, wisdom. It is, we go according to the categorization of, or the order set up by Al-Imam al-Razi. Al-hikmah, wisdom, is mentioned in the Quran. Okay, now we go to al-yaqeen, certainty. And by the way, and maybe in my first, in the second book, 2018, I mentioned about yaqeen, but actually there are 3 different, you see here, this is clear. There are 3 different levels of yaqeen. Okay, ilmul yaqeen, knowledge of certainty. The next one is aynul yaqeen, observational certainty, also mentioned in the Quran, and haqqul yaqeen. Haqqul yaqeen, the true certainty, which may be the highest level of certainty. So all these are mentioned in the Quran. For the participants, brothers and sisters, colleagues, information, these 3 have been mentioned in one category by al-Razi. Okay, Okay. الذهن, mindfulness, not mentioned, but it's in the Islamic thought and legacy. Al-fikr, thought, for sure. That's what we talked about in our last session, by the way. So it's mentioned in the Quran. And the next one, al-hads, inspiration. It's used by the Quran with a different terminology, and that is al-wahi. Al-wahi. It's mentioned at least 3 times, that Allah inspired the bees, Allah inspired Musa. Okay, so inshallah, hopefully you will see that in the updated chapter of my second book, inshallah. Number 19, intelligence. Intelligence is not used in the Quran, but there are other terms. Al-fitna, rapid apprehension. Okay, al-fitna is used in the Islamic thought. As you know, one of the 4 sifat of Anbiya is al-fitna, rapid apprehension. Okay. Al-khatir, thought. I don't know, here it's also interpreted as thought, but actually I think I need to, because it cannot be, al-fikr is also thought, and al-khatir is also interpreted as thought. We need to re-look into that. Okay, it's mentioned in the Quran. The next one, al-wahm, illusion, is not mentioned. Number 22. Number 23, adhan, is so amazing. Adhan, conjecture, is mentioned in the Quran, but here it's one of the controversial terms because it has 2 opposite meanings, and both mentioned in the Quran. Because there is adhannu rajih, the most likely. We are talking about the most likely, adhannu rajih, belief. The most likely, or the most definite belief, that's adhannu rajih. الذين يظنون أنهم ملاقو ربهم. Here it's not, doesn't mean the doubt. Here it means a true belief, or a high degree of belief. But there is a dhan, which means here al-Imam al-Razi, he mentioned al-i'tiqad al-rajih, but in the Quran, by the way, it's used also as a like more of a doubt, or not sure. When you are not sure, it's like it's just what a conjecture. Okay, so both are used by the Quran. The one mentioned by Imam al-Razi, and the other one. The other one is even mentioned more in terms of frequency. Okay. The next one, al-khayal, imagination, it's not mentioned. The next one, al-badiha, wittedness, it's not mentioned. Al-awwaliyat, rudiments, or al-badihiyat, this is related to ilm, to logic. That's why al-Imam al-Razi mentioned all those terms. He doesn't claim, even though 19 of the 31 are actually used by the Quran. 19. Okay, which I highlighted already. Al-Rawiyah, وهي ما كان من المعرفة بعد فكر كثير. This is the words of Al-Imam al-Razi. Diligent consideration, okay, so not mentioned in the Quran. The next one, 28, الكياسة وهي تمكن النفس من استنباط ما هو أنفع. Ingenuousness, this is not mentioned in the Quran, but it's in the Islamic thought and legacy. 29, al-khibra, experiential knowledge. Experiential knowledge, okay, not mentioned. 30, al-ra'i, which is opinion. This is mentioned in the Quran, okay, al-ra'i, or opinion. The last one mentioned by Imam al-Razi is al-firasa, which is mentioned in the Quran with a different term, for your information. That's why I wouldn't say it is not mentioned. It's mentioned with another name, which is التوسم. إن في ذلك لآيات للمتوسمين. And tawassum means the interpreters of Quran, mufassirun, they call it al-firasa, okay, or contemplation. So it's mentioned in the Quran. Lastly, I would like to mention about 12 terms based on my research. Okay, Al-Imam al-Razi is talking about different things, but it was so beautiful. That's what ignited or what enlightened me to do the research on this topic, by the way. When he discussed about those 30 terms as synonyms, as he considered, to al-ilm. Okay, but I took the research a little bit further and I explored the Quran. So I found that 19 of what has been mentioned by Al-Imam al-Razi has been used by the Quran, which is very great. And some of those 19 used by up to 40 plus, 40 something times one term. Okay, at the same time, there are terms in the Quran, terms related to thinking and used by the Quran, but have not been mentioned by Al-Imam al-Razi. Like al-basira, okay, being insightful, to draw lessons, al-i'tibar, to verify, al-tabayyun, okay, calculative thinking, hasiba, this is mentioned more than 50 to 60 times in the Quran, okay, reflection, tadabbur, okay, it's used, it's so amazing that, or what, to me, surprising. I wouldn't say amazing. It's surprising me that it's not mentioned by this tadabbur. Okay, so it's mentioned in the Quran and it's related to thinking. To observe, الرؤية, أولم يروا أفلم, or also yes, أولم يروا أفلم يروا, أولم يروا and أفلم يروا, to observe. Paying attention, النظر, أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت وإلى السماء كيف رفعت. Paying attention. So this is, there are 4 terms that, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, used for thinking. Al-fu'adu, ulul albabi, ulul nuha, dhu hijrin. These all also related to thinking. These are 4. The last one is al-mujadala, which is debating or dialogue or debating, al-mujadala. To the extent there is one surah, I'm sure all of you know, if not memorized, Surah al-Mujadila. So debating or arguing or dialogue, this is called al-Mujadala. وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ, as also in another verse of the Quranic verse. وَلَا تُجَادِلُوا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. So mujadala again. These are 12 terms. If you add it up, 19 terms mentioned by Imam al-Razi out of the 30, 19 terms used by the Quran. Here we have 12 terms. I am sure there are other terms. I'm sure. I am doing a research now, as I told you, inshallah. I'm considering other terms, you know, like also adding a sam, hearing. So like senses are related to thinking. So they might come up to more than 31. Okay, so these are the thinking terms. How great is Islam and how great is Quran? Well, I just want to, Al-Razi as a unique mufassir, Al-Imam al-Razi discussed in detail the meaning of these terms. Okay, this is a message. This is a message to the participants. If we have postgraduate students, okay, or those who are about to graduate, and you are willing to do a master degree or PhD degree, to me it's worth to be to do a research on the discussions of Al-Imam al-Razi. Okay, I have, like, you know, Al-Imam al-Razi, he mentioned these 31 terms, right? So he discussed in details in different places of his tafsir. He discussed in details about those terms in other verses or other surah of the tafsir. And I have made a collection. I don't mind to share it if someone is willing to do the research, and if he got approval for his master thesis or PhD thesis, I can share it with you. I've collected 126 pages on what Al-Imam al-Razi have written. Just imagine, 126 pages. Okay, or 125. I believe it's 126. Okay. So just to share with you how the Quran promoted the thinking terms. Okay, we need, that is very important. By the way, we have one session, inshallah, we will arrange that, one of the coming sessions. We will talk about infusing thinking in classroom. Okay, 1 hour session. So this can help us. I just want to remind you how Islam, how Quran promoted the thinking terms. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want us to use our mental capabilities, mental qualities. Okay, so he encouraged us subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran to think, to ponder, to reflect. Okay, now how is that promoted? Number one, through commanding all mankind, not only Muslims for sure as the first, but all mankind, to use their mind capabilities. Command, Okay, so commanding us, commanding the reciter of the Quran to use our mental capabilities, mind capabilities. So that's one thing. It's times and again in the Quran commanding us. Number two, praising those who ponder, reflect, and contemplate. Praising, praising those who ponder, reflect, and contemplate. And this is also a great way of promoting promoting thinking, not only thinking and thinking terminologies. Actually, the more you use terms for thinking, the more you build up the motive, the more you build up the attitude. Has to do building up attitude. Okay. At the other hand, condemning those who fail to utilize their mental qualities. So this is in many numerous ayat of the Quran. Okay, those who just blind follow, like an example, you know, Al-Quran condemned blind following simply because you are not using your mind. It's not that you have become a Muslim because your parents are Muslims. You are a Muslim because it's your decision. It's your own decision. You decided to be a Muslim, not just by society, because living in a Muslim society. Yeah. Another way to promote the thinking terms and promote, now, you know, we are talking about promoting thinking terms and promoting thinking. Remember, both. Using questioning with the terms to provoke the minds. Allahu Akbar. So like the one I shared with you just now, أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ. So there is a question and a thinking term. Okay? So that is one way to promote the thinking term, but also to promote the thinking itself. Okay? أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا أَفَلَمْ يَرَوْا. And as well, we will experience and explore in our coming session next Sunday, inshallah, in the thinking styles of the Quran. Okay, so I believe as a tool for reflective thinking style. So the Quran used 15 thinking styles, and one of those thinking, this we will explore in more details next session, inshallah. One of those thinking styles is reflective thinking. In reflective thinking, it's actually what is used is the two things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala draw our attention to the creation, his creation, the signs of the universe, the signs of Allah, the beautiful creation of what Allah created. So that is reflective thinking, but along with a thinking term, as we will explore, inshallah. Okay, so like the ayah, you can look at the ayat from now. The ayah tells you or draw your attention to what Allah created: mountains, oceans, you know, and many other creations, like, you know, to the creation of humans, okay, etc. But again, you see at the end of the ayah, إن في ذلك لآيات. You can see. And then you have a different beautiful ending. Okay? Either يتفكرون or يعقلون, or you see, لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون. So تفكر here is a term, لعلهم يتفكرون, so that they may ponder. So like here, it's actually commanding us to think and use our mind, but also to reflect. Okay? لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل. So this is Surah Al-Hashr, the end of Surah Al-Hashr. This is the next. We try to discuss. We have another 2 issues, and then we finish, inshallah. Maybe we can allow for some interaction. Objectives of using multi-thinking terms in the Quran. What are the objectives? Objective number 1, that's what I told you just now. Infusing thinking in the process of recitation of Al-Quran. While you are reciting Al-Quran, you know, you are guided to think. You are encouraged to think. You are motivated to think. You see, that's what it means. Number 1. Number 2, building up a new mental attitudes with that, you know, because, you know, أفلا يتدبرون إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يعقلون. You know, different aspects, different terms, different. This creates or build up a new mental attitudes. Okay, and thinking. They say thinking. By the way, this is the latest, one of the latest of my reading. When it comes to thinking, either critical or creative, there are 3 issues: qualities, attitudes, and skills. Qualities, you need to have or to be equipped with certain qualities. Okay, and number 2, attitudes. You need to build up attitudes. And number 3, you need to learn skills. All that is in the Quran. All that is in the Quran. Next one, changing mindset or changing minds. Changing minds. And one of the maybe pioneers here is Howard Gardner, Professor Howard Gardner, who's an American psychologist. He has a beautiful book. I've read the book, and actually I used to have it to teach it in one of my classes. The title is Changing Minds. I encourage all of you to read the book. One of the most beautiful books, Changing Minds. Okay, so changing mindset or changing minds. That's one of the, I believe, the objectives, great objectives of Quran. The Quran, and I have an article, I have published an article on mindset, okay, from Islamic perspective. It's published in GIA, Journal of Islam in Asia. Okay, I can share it with those. It's in my IRAP. If you go to IREP, okay, the IRAP, IIUM. So I have a page there. So in that page is one of the articles that I shared. So you can go to IRAP, IREP, IIUM, and you may enjoy reading the article. Mindset. Okay. By the way, the Quran has used that done that or achieved that through one of the things that I would like to share with you is hasiba, which I told you like it's 56 times in the Quran. It's used about 56 times in the Quran, to 60 times. Changing perceptions, changing mindset, and changing minds. That's one of the greatest, I believe, objectives of the Quran and of the message of Islam. To develop open-mindedness in order to appreciate, acknowledge, and accept the truth. How great is that? To develop an open-mindedness, you know, in the reader, in the mind of the reader, in the mindset of the reader, in the mental attitude of the reciter. To develop open-mindedness. Open-mindedness, we are not born with open-mindedness. We develop it. Quran builds up and develops such attitude or open-mindedness. And by the way, open-mindedness and fair-mindedness, this is one of the standards of critical thinking. One of the standards or criteria of critical thinking. Okay? What is the objective here? To appreciate, to love, to acknowledge, and accept the truth. And accept the truth. Okay. So these are the great objectives. Now we go to the next. Are they synonyms? There are a few questions which I'd like to share with you. Are those terms synonyms of knowledge to start with? As Al-Imam al-Razi. For sure they are, as some of my students have a different view of mine. I like that. They said, yes, they are synonyms of knowledge, because you remember that what has been mentioned by Al-Imam al-Razi, or they say all are related to knowledge. But still the question, are they synonyms of knowledge, or that thinking with these 31 terms, every term has been used many times in the Quran? Can we consider thinking as a term on its own, you know, apart from knowledge, even though it's related to knowledge? So that's my first question. It's up to you, because our Imam al-Razi believes that. As I said, are they synonyms of thinking? Not only that, in my writing and in my research, I came up with even, I believe, another way of looking at the thing. They might be different aspects and levels of thinking. To me, I'm more encouraged, or what, to go for this third view. So it's up to you whether to go for the first view, second view, or the third view. Why do we say that? There are some linguists in Islam who do not believe in synonyms in Quran. They say every term has its meaning, has its own meaning. So that's what led me also to be careful about that. And I said, maybe it's actually, as some of those linguists, they say that, you know, like in Arabic language, there are about 100 terms for lion, for al-Asad. They say, scholars say, actually, every term tells you one status of the lion. When he is, you know, when he is attacking his victim, or when he is laying down or what? Different status. Yes. So is it different aspects and levels of thinking? I leave it to you. To me, it might be the third one. You know, research might support the third option, if you ask my opinion. And linguists also would support that. The Arab scholars of Arabic language, linguists, also that there is no synonyms, rather than it's a different terms for different meaning. This is the last slide, I believe. Implications. This is very important. What are the implications? 31 terms, maybe 35 now, based on the latest research. Above 30 terms, each term has been used more than at least one time to dozens of times. What are the implications? Number one, the richness of the Quranic discourse. This is very clear. The richness of the Quranic discourse. Number two, some Western sociologists, I quoted that in my textbook, they are of the view, the more a culture uses terms for a concept, the more that concept is valued by that culture. What do we infer? We infer that Islam, that Quran highly values thinking and creativity. That's what it means. That's the implication. This defies the other implication. This defies what some opponents of Islam claim, that Islam is against thinking or creativity. Okay? So it nullifies, it defies, it refutes. Yes, this claim, it refutes the claim. The last one, brothers and sisters, is that we should be proud of our great religion, Islam, and its great message, Al-Quran. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يوفقنا وإياكم أن نعتز بديننا وبإسلامنا وأن نكون من الذين يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.
Thank you so much, Prof. Please raise your hand if you want to ask directly or write in the chat room question. Okay, Prof, we have one here.
Okay.
I want to ask whether terminology like reason and thought has a different meaning in Islam and the West.
Okay. Whether terminology like reason and thought has a different meaning. Oh, terminology, I don't know if I got the question right. Terminologies are the terms that have been used for thinking. We are talking about the terms that have been, so reason is could be one of the terms. So reasoning is one of the terms. And thought, yes. So reason and thought are terms. Okay. Do they have a different meaning in Islam? You see, generally speaking, they even though they might have a specific meaning, but it wouldn't be far from what is. This is universal. You see, thinking is a universal. Creativity is universal. That's why we say creative thinking from an Islamic perspective. But we do not claim that creativity only belongs to us. The Westerns wouldn't, I believe, also claim that thinking and creativity is there, belongs to them. No, it's okay. We might go to the basic issue. All humans have been created for a great job, and that job is to build up civilization. To build up civilization, you need certain qualities. So the ability to reason, the ability to compare, the ability to reflect, the ability to practice all these, we need it as humans to live on the earth, to build up the civilization. This is based on Islamic worldview. So Allah created us with those abilities, and Allah created everybody with, regardless, male, female, color, regardless of their color, regardless of their nationality or whatever, this or that, or religion. Generally speaking, people are created with the same abilities. Okay, but then they will differ based on many other factors, many different factors. And for Islam, for sure, for me, I can claim that Islam, as a revealed by the Creator, by Allah, in His last message, I'm sure that it is, as Imam al-Ghazali call it, Nurun ala Nur. Nurun ala Nur. So he said, like, it is Nurul Wahi over the Nur al-Aql. You see, al-Wahi has its enlightenment, inspiration, and guidance. And we have Nurul al-Aql. We are guided. We have the qualities. So with those qualities being guided, we might be, inshallah, in a better position to be better, to create better civilization, supposedly, to create better civilization, a civilization that there is no dhulm, the values, there is no injustice, a civilization where it's built on tawheed, a civilization that is built on Quranic worldview, that it's built on the teachings of Sharia, maqasid al-Sharia, etc. So for sure, the minds would be guided. When you take it further, when you say, like, it should be institutionalized and it should be collective when it comes to creativity, thinking, ijtihad, building civilization, inventions. When we say that it should be based on collectivity, then it gives it even more flavor and maybe more guidance. Yes, and that is one of the main maybe differences between the Western perspective, which values individuality, the Islamic, the Western worldview is based on individuality. However, the Islamic worldview, both it encourages individual responsibility, but at the same time, Islam encourages institutions, encourages collective thinking, as we have experienced in our last session. Yes.
Okay, Prof. We have many more questions, but since our time is up,
maybe we can take one more question, and the rest of the questions I'm sharing with everybody now. Inshallah, next time we start 10 minutes before the session, means 2:20, so we can address the questions.
Okay,
Please.
Prof. Yeah, the last one, and maybe after this you can conclude also from Sister
Okay.
Soliha, how to inculcate teaching thinking along with teaching values in the context of multi-society classroom. So like in Thailand.
Okay, I think that we can address, inshallah. You know, it's for sure when you say that we want to infuse thinking, and let's say in the classroom, and in this case, like, you know, we are talking now about integration of knowledge, we are talking about worldview, we are talking about now we are talking about also creativity and critical thinking. So I think it can be done successfully. It's a multitask. Now they talk about multi-paradigm. This is a new issue in thinking and in creativity, and they talk about multi-paradigm. So it's a multi-paradigm issue. For sure, we can, inshallah, take in consideration hand in hand all these issues, the worldview, the values, as you mentioned, okay, the Islamic values, the integration of knowledge, creativity, and critical thinking. It's a good question, and it's a challenge for sure. How would we do that? How would we train? That is the biggest challenge. How would we train our teachers, school teachers, and university lecturers so that they have multitask mindset? All these multitask mindset. I think this can also by itself can be an issue for discussion. Yes, it cannot be answered in 5-10 minutes rather than, and it should involve a group discussion and collective thinking. Yes, thank you for the question.
Okay, Prof, final words for today.
No, the final words is that inshallah, as we go on, I hope that the Islamic perspective with regard to thinking, pertaining to thinking and creativity, inshallah, is clearer and clearer, and we are building up. And that's one of the purposes that of this series of organized sessions every Sunday, is that we build up this kind of attitude, this kind of mentality or mental attitude. We build up our character in the right way, so that inshallah, by also learning the skills, the thinking skills, whether from I'm teaching thinking skills from both perspectives, Western and Islamic. So when we learn those thinking skills, whether let's say brainstorming, 6 thinking hats, and many other thinking skills from the Western perspective, or the thinking styles in the Quran, when we do that, inshallah, this work hand in hand to build up a better personality, a better Islamic personality. And that is our ultimate objective, inshallah ta'ala, with the organizers and with, inshallah, all of you, those who join us. Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you for your participation and following up. We will address your other questions, inshallah, next time, next Sunday, 10 minutes before the session, inshallah ta'ala.
Thank you so much, Prof. Many were asking about the PowerPoint. I will ask Prof to send to me, and I will email it tomorrow in our daily email. Inshallah. So see you again. Yeah. See you again, Prof, next week. Inshallah. And for the others, we'll meet again at 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi